you guys might be wondering, what are the 12 best BMX cranks? And this is what we're going to put together. We're going to mostly go over, I don't know, it's mostly on value, but it's important to know, like, there are certain things about cranks that you need to understand when you're upgrading. Like, do you want a 22 millimeter? Do you want a 19? Do you want a 24? Like, what kind of cranks do you need? What are right for you? Do you need long crank arms, short crank arms? There's so much to go into it, but I found 12 really good cranks. I'll link to them in the description. But anyway, let's just bust through it. Okay, let's take a look at these cranks. Let's run through some of these cranks. We've got the top 12 BMX cranks. These are the best 12 cranks that I could find, and they're all under 200. I don't think any of them get over 200, but spending 200 on cranks is quite a bit. First, we've got the Shadow Conspiracy Finest cranks. I picked these because, one, they look really good, and this is what Shadow says about them. Shadow says that the finest cranks are here to put all the other cranks in their coffin. Get it? Because Shadow has coffins, like it's a part of their brand. I don't know. Funny. Anyway, it's got a hollow 22 millimeter spindle that's going to enhance the strength and stiffness while remaining slim and out of the way of the ankles. They are left and right side drive compatible. These cranks cost $193. They're available in 160, 165, 170, and 175. They weigh 32 ounces, and they've got a black and chrome design option. I think personally these cranks look really good. I wouldn't really say that they look ankle friendly. Like, if you look at that ledge where the spindle goes in, like that is kind of a decent overhang. I think that could catch your ankles and be a little bit painful, but teach their own. Okay, some of the pros about these cranks, or some of the pros of these cranks, is that they're full chromoly and they do have those oversized welds that Shadow mentioned. So personally, I've broke a lot of different profile cranks, and it always is right there where the crank arm attaches to the spindle boss. These crank arms are a unique shape. They look a little bit different than most cranks, and they have flat sides. These flat sides are pretty good for people who like to do crank arm grinds. If you're a better rider than me, you can probably do crank arm grinds, and having squared off cranks like this is going to be more beneficial than the rounded cranks. Rounded cranks are going to make it harder. They've got left hand and right hand drive bosses. Now, some of the cons of these cranks are that they're expensive. The chrome pair is almost $200. I think that's way too much money for some cranks. They are a little bit heavy. They weigh right around 2 pounds or 32 ounces, and they're pretty bulky looking. They don't have a really slim, clean look, but because of everything, I'm going to rank these like a 7.7 out of 10. They could be better. They could be lighter. They could be cheaper. There's a lot of different things that these cranks could do better, but overall, like, these are decent cranks. And if you catch them on sale, you're getting a really good deal. I think they're a good option for street riders who like to do mostly street with a little bit of park. The second ones that I picked were the stolen Talon V2 cranks. And before you come at me, it's not because these are the best quality cranks in the world. I'll explain why I picked them towards the end of this little section. But Stolen says that the Talon 2 cranks feature a newly revised crank arm shape, and you can tell because it looks a little bit funny. It's got 4130 full chromoly. It looks good, but the shape, or it helps shed unnecessary weight. I don't think that that's true. It's got 19 millimeter 48 spline spindle that's heat treated, and it includes flush mount spindle bolts. You would expect that. It's right hand drive and left hand drive compatible. The cool thing about these cranks is they're only $79. They're available in 3 sizes, 165, 170, and 175, but they weigh 35 ounces. I don't know what they're talking about weight there in the description. 35 ounces is not shedding weight. That is not light at all. But anyway, some of the pros include, these are a very affordable upgrade. For $79, you're getting cranks that are full chromoly with a 48 spline spindle. That makes them a great upgrade for stock cranks that are like 8 spline cranks. They are 48 spline spindle for strength. It's a lot cleaner of a look. It does shed some weight, as opposed to 8 spline stock cranks. I'd imagine these are quite a bit lighter, but overall, like, they're still heavy. I'm stuck on the heaviness thing. They're also left hand and right hand drive. So if you're looking for stronger cranks to upgrade to, and you want cranks, and maybe in the future you're going to get a left hand drive sprocket, or you're going to switch everything to left hand drive, maybe getting these is a good upgrade, spending that $80 so that eventually you can switch over to left-hand drive. Some of the cons is the funny looking design. I don't know. Do you guys like these? Do you think that the way that these look is nice, or do you think it's a little bit weird? I think it looks weird, but I'm very judgmental. They're well over 2 pounds, making them very, very heavy cranks, and they're only available in this black color option. Because of everything, they're only going to score a 5.4 out of 10. But again, I wanted to pick them because I did want some cranks that are good upgrades from stock cranks at an affordable price. And these are under $100. So they're not the best cranks, but for under $100, it's a good upgrade over the stock cranks that came on your bike. Unless you got a high quality bike with 48 spline cranks, but most stock cranks are not going to be that. Number 3 on the list are the Odyssey calibur cranks. These are a ground up redesign from the 3-piece crank set that resulted in a massive improvement in both strength and durability. These are the cranks that I run on my street bike, and I really like them. They've got a 48 spline spindle. They're 3-piece, unlike the Odyssey Thunderbolt crank, so you can run a spline drive sprocket on it. Left-hand drive, right-hand drive compatible. The boss look isn't as clean as some of those other cranks where they're built in, like, you know, where it runs down from the spindle boss, the sprocket boss. Like, I don't know. It doesn't look as clean as the ones that are built in as one, but that's okay because they're $169. They're available in 160, 165, 170, and 175. They weigh 30 ounces. Okay. Now, some of the pros of these cranks include the heat-treated chromoly. These are really strong cranks, and they're built to last. They're designed to last. The 22 millimeter spindle provides like a stronger spindle. It's going to be a little more hollow, so you get more strength for weight. And these cranks are under 2 pounds. Most of that is because that 22 millimeter design. They're just built really well for lighter cranks. Some of the cons include that they're only available in this black color option. Like it, some people don't. I think it would be nice to just have a little bit more of a sleek look. I like the shadow cranks that just had an engraved emblem on there. There's a lot going on with these. Like, these just say Odyssey, Odyssey, Odyssey all over it. So I don't know. To each your own. Okay. They're also that overhang there that I'm talking about right here can catch onto your ankles, and they no longer include a bottom bracket. A bottom bracket. These cranks used to come with a bottom bracket, and they do not anymore, which is a little bit disappointing because it would be nice to get nice cranks like this with a bottom bracket for $170. But I really like these cranks. I love riding them on my bike. They feel solid. I don't worry about them breaking like I do my profiles, and so they're going to score a 9 out of 10. All right, number 4 is going to be the Animal Akimbo cranks. The Akimbo cranks are 3-piece cranks from Animal. These are really popular street cranks, and you don't see very much from Animal, or much about Animal. They're not a super popular, super hyped brand that I can tell. You know, they have some shredders. They're doing their thing, but they're not like Odyssey. They're not like Haro. They're not like Kink, just out there in the front face of the media all the time. And these are cranks that have been around for a long time that people really trust and people really appreciate. They're $179. They're available in these 4 crank arm lengths. They weigh 33 ounces. And in the box, when you open up that box, that looks nice. Look at that. You got that install tool. You got the flush crank mount. It's just a nice looking thing. Very nice. Well put together. Some of the pros are they're right-hand drive, left-hand drive compatible. Just like the calibur cranks, they have that strong 22 millimeter spindle, and they include the installation and removal tool. Some of the things I don't like about these cranks are that they're a little bit heavier, more heavy than the caliburs. They're over 2 pounds. I think they're right at 33 ounces. I said it earlier. Anyway, a little heavy. 33 ounces. The sprocket options, because of it being a 22 millimeter spindle, are a little bit limited. Most sprockets are 19 millimeter. Some of them have a top cap, and the top cap, without the top cap, they're 24 millimeter. Okay. They're going to score an 8.4. Not quite as good as the calibur cranks, but pretty dang close. Next, number 5 is the Kink brace cranks. These are newer cranks. They're super strong, super durable. They've got more of a rounded design and a big hollow 24 4mm spindle, I'm pretty sure. They cost $159. They're available in 160, 165, 170, and 175. They weigh 33.5 ounces. I really like that they come with the True Therm, which is Kink's special heat treating process. They're heat treated chromoly. That makes them a little bit stronger. Oh, they're 22, not 24. They're a 22mm spindle, and the sprocket bolt has multiple options. You can use an Allen wrench, or you can use the square piece on your ratchet. And that's kind of unique, kind of different. I don't know. I feel like if you have a ratchet, you also have a 6mm, so I don't understand the point there unless you need more leverage, but you typically don't. So it's a cool little unique option. They also come in black and chrome. Okay. Now, some of the cons include that they're not very ankle friendly. I think this, like every brand is like, oh yeah, these are so ankle friendly. And it's like, they don't look ankle friendly, man. Look at that overhang there. So that's a little disappointing, but to each its own. Ankle friendliness is a big thing on my judgment here, because doing a whip, doing a no footer, and coming back on and catching your ankle on the cranks is the worst feeling ever. Not only does it hurt right away, it bruises and then hurts every time after that. They are heavy. They're 33.5 ounces, which is over 2 pounds. And that rounded design makes it a little bit harder for crank arm grinds. And these are supposed to be street cranks, so it's a little tough there. But they're going to score an 8.2, a little bit lower than the Animal Akimbo cranks, but they're still good cranks. For somebody who is going to ride a mix of street and park, you want some solid cranks that are going to last. Like you're a Casey Sterling kind of guy. Those are a solid choice. Next, I'm really excited about these ones because I wasn't expecting them to be this good. The Stevie, Churchill, the Primo cranks. Okay. And somebody, I think it was Nick in the comments, said that he has these cranks, right? That he ordered them. I was checking these out and I was really impressed with them. The design looks nice. They have color options. They've got a wrap welded pedal boss, a one-piece spindle, a 24mm spindle. 24mm cranks are hard to find, and when you do find them, you're going to notice that they're pretty strong. Like, that's a beefy sprocket, but it's also very hollow, and you get good weight reduction. They're normally $215, on sale at Dan's Comp right now for $135, so almost $100 off. You can only find them in 165 and 170 millimeters, and they weigh 28.6 ounces. These are the lightest cranks we've reviewed so far. I was very impressed with that. Like, very impressed, because I think profiles are around 25 if I remember right. So just for 3 ounces more, you can get stronger cranks. For a crazy price. For $135 is crazy. Some of the pros include that lightweight that I was talking about. They're under 30 ounces. That's really hard to find. These cranks are full chromoly. They're heat treated, so they're going to last. It comes with a bottom bracket, which is another wacky thing. For $135, you're getting cranks with a bottom bracket now. On all the other cranks we talked about before, especially if they're a bigger size, you're going to have to upgrade the bottom bracket. So typically you're going to have a 19mm bottom bracket, and when you buy 22mm cranks, you need a 22mm bottom bracket. So any of those cranks we talked about previously, that's their price without the bottom bracket. These cranks are priced with the bottom bracket, and that's a great deal. They're also available in multiple color options. Most cranks are only available in black. These have some different options, so that's really cool. Now, it only is going to work with 24mm sprockets, so you might have to buy a new sprocket even though you didn't have to buy a new bottom bracket, and that is a little bit hard. You can't just upgrade your cranks from a 19 to a 24 without getting a 24mm bottom bracket, but you also will probably have to get a new sprocket. The size options are pretty limited on these cranks, and with that sale price going on, they're going to be really hard to find in stock. I gave them a 7.9 because I think that the limited option makes it a little bit harder for riders to find the right size for them, and it might, because of the price and value, it might force them into buying cranks that are the wrong size and end up stuck with those. But they're amazing cranks, amazing deal. Comes with the bottom bracket. Like, you really can't go wrong with these cranks. Okay, next we've got the Demolition Revolt Cranks. The Revolt Cranks are made with heat-treated chromoly arms that feature a thicker tubing and a unique V-shaped ridge on the front to increase strength and stiffness. They're they're $169. They come in a 165, 170, and 175 spindle or crank arm length. They weigh 32.2 ounces, so they're right at that 2-pound mark. And you can get them in a 19 millimeter or a 24 millimeter option. I think that's important because sometimes you just don't want to upgrade to a 24. You want to stick with 19 so you can keep your sprocket and you can keep your bottom bracket. With these, you can buy the 19 millimeter option. You don't have to worry about it. A lot of the other cranks are only made in one size, so that was a really cool thing. Some of the pros include the lifetime warranty that are included on these cranks. Lifetime warranty. You break them, they're going to replace them. You've got their left-hand drive and right-hand drive compatible, and they're made from strong heat-treated chromoly. I would say that the construction of these cranks give them a little bit of a strange look. Like if they look unique, you know. That's all I'll say. They look very unique. They only come in one color option, and again, they do not look ankle friendly. These stick out pretty far up here. I guess that is a little bit flush, but that hang there, man, they say ankle friendly. I don't think they're ankle friendly. These Demolition Revolt cranks are going to score an 8.2. And yeah, again, I think they're really solid street cranks. All I hear about from those cranks is how strong they are. Like, one time I was riding, we were going real fast. I jumped the pyramid backwards and I went to flat. And I did it on purpose. I've done it many times. And I landed and my profile crank arm just snapped clean off. I jammed my foot into the ground. I crashed and I was like, what the hell? It was a terrible experience. And so buying cranks that are not going to do that to you will be pretty beneficial. Next, we've got the Colony Venator cranks. These are going to be the next cranks that I buy for my park bike because they look good, they're clean, they're lightweight, and they're pretty good price. They're $195 for the chrome option, okay, which is expensive, but for when you see how light they are, you're going to be like, okay, fair enough. They're $165 or 165 millimeter crank arm, 170, 175. Those are your options, and they only weigh 25 ounces. So the same weight as profile cranks, just much stronger, much more reliable. You can tell by how they're welded and how they're constructed. They come in a 22 millimeter spindle option, which might be better. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I should have been running bigger profile cranks instead of 19s, but I don't know, man. Last week they were on the list for cranks not to buy. So the pros here is that weight. I can't get over how light these are. These are some of the lightest cranks that you're going to be able to find, and they're in a 22 millimeter option. They're left-hand drive and right-hand drive compatible, and for that price, you're getting the install tool. Kirk mentioned earlier that he installed his RNC cranks today, and he took his time, and he used his tools, did not have to beat on it with a hammer. The way that I install my cranks is you put them in there as much as you can, you get the good old hammer, and you beat it until it goes in, like until it works. You just beat the hell out of the cranks. And with an install tool included, you don't have to do that. That's pretty cool. Some of the cons include that the lightweight is a little bit concerning because it makes me question the durability. But I look at the welds, I look at the structure, and I look at the reviews and say, okay, well, I think that they're going to last just fine, even with that lightweight. The back of the pedal boss looks a little bit odd. If you look right here, it's not hollow. It's just weird. I think that looks weird. And they have really big, large logos on the crank arms. The black is probably going to get rubbed off by your shoe, and then it's going to look weird because you'll have like just a Y and an N maybe, and the rest gets rubbed off. It's just going to look a little funny. I'm giving these cranks an 8.5 out of 10. I think that they are great cranks. They look good. They're light, a little bit on the expensive side, but they're going to be worth it. Another one that I was surprised by. So I was surprised by the Primo cranks. I was also surprised by the Fit Blunt cranks. Oh, disappeared. By the Fit Blunt cranks. These are 24 millimeter cranks, but I really, really like how they... I was really impressed with how that logo design looks on the spindle boss. I think that that's just like, that's a really clean look. Well, just the whole way the spindle boss is put together. It's like one insert there, and I think that's going to make it stronger. Just like there's some Eclat cranks that are coming up, and they're very impressive too. But anyway, this crank set comes with a mid-bottom bracket. They're right-hand drive and left-hand drive compatible, and the bolts work with a 6mm or an 8mm Allen key. And this is kind of cool because sometimes you don't have one of your Allen keys laying around. I think my cranks right now are 8mm Allen keys, but I really only use a 6. And so when I have to adjust my cranks, I'm wandering around looking for my 6 or looking for my 8 because I never use it. So that's a little frustrating. These cranks are $189. They're available in 160 and 170 crank arm lengths, and they only weigh 30 ounces. So they're under 2 pounds. They've got that 24mm spindle. These are solid cranks. Some of the pros include that really clean look that I mentioned. That square design is good for crank arm grinds, and it comes with a bottom bracket. You can't be mad about that, you know. It also comes with ankle friendly design. Like I said, that's a big thing for me. If you look right here, that looks very ankle friendly, because what happens when you tail up is like your ankle is going to catch around this area, and just the fact that it's built into one unit right here makes me confident that your ankles are going to be okay. Some of the cons include a limited selection for sprockets. Like I said, 22 and 24 millimeters. You're going to need to upgrade that good old sprocket of yours. So now you're buying cranks and a sprocket. They're only available in this gloss clear colorway, which is a little disappointing. I like black cranks, but it's okay. They're going to score a 9.1. I was really happy with the way these look. They're strong. They're under 2 pounds. They're definitely a solid choice. Next on the list are the Odyssey Thunderbolt cranks. I put these on the bike that we did a giveaway for, and I was a little bit hesitant because of the weird design and the way they work. I was actually impressed. They went together very easily. I was happy with the strength, happy with how easy it was to put together. Man, I keep burping. These are super good cranks, but they come at a price. They're $199. They're available in 3 crank arm lengths, but they weigh 27.3 ounces. So these are pretty light cranks for that high price. They're just a little bit harder to work on. They've got a 22 millimeter spindle, not a 24, but again, you know what happens with the 22 millimeter spindle. Some of the pros include a lifetime warranty on these cranks. If you get a complete bike with Thunderbolt cranks, these cranks also have a lifetime warranty. If you get a complete bike with the Odyssey calibur cranks, they do not have a lifetime warranty. Don't forget that. The design is something that I think is really unique, but the way that they build these cranks makes them confident that they will last forever. So they're giving you that lifetime warranty. They have a really clean, square design look, and they're super strong and durable cranks. One of the problems is that you cannot do a spline drive sprocket with these cranks. For a spline drive sprocket, you need to have splines. These cranks are put together with a unique system that do not have splines. So they're not 48 spline cranks. They're not 8 spline cranks. No spline drive allowed. The 2.5 piece crank system or the 2-piece crank system is going to be a pain to work on. It's going to be confusing if you've never done it before, and you've got to figure out that shim adjustment thing. And anyway, it is a little bit difficult your first try, but once you get them together, they're pretty solid. They're also left-hand drive and right-hand drive compatible, but they're in different options. So what that means is like you have to make sure if you need left-hand drive that you buy the left-hand drive version, which makes it a little bit more of an upgrade. Like if you buy cranks that are a bigger crank size, or even if you buy 19 millimeter cranks that are right-hand drive and left-hand drive as they come, you can buy them, get the benefits of new cranks without having to upgrade everything right away. And then when you're ready to switch over to left-hand drive, you can just swap over to left-hand drive. Versus these, if you're going to swap over to left-hand drive, you've got to buy these cranks, then you've got to buy the wheel for the left-hand drive, then you've got to switch everything over at once, because you can't just run it for a while on right stuff. And that's a little bit frustrating. Anyway, these cranks score an 8.8 out of 10. They're not over a 9. So far, the Fit Blunts and the Calibur cranks are the only ones that are 9s. I think the 2-piece system on the Thunderbolt cranks causes a lot of headache, and just for that reason, they had to go down a little bit. Next, we've got some more affordable cranks, the Rant Bangin' 48. These are clean-looking 48 spline cranks. They've got a 19mm spindle, and they're right-hand drive and left-hand drive compatible. They're only $100, so they're $20 more than those stolen cranks that we talked about earlier, but they look a lot cleaner. They're available in 165, 170, and 175 crank arm lengths. They're 34.5 ounces, so they're still very heavy cranks, and they have a 19mm spindle. I think that I like these cranks because they're an affordable upgrade. Just like the stolen cranks, they're a good upgrade over cheap, heavy, stock 8-spline cranks, because these are 48 spline. They're going to be stronger and a little bit lighter. They're full heat-treated chromoly. They're available in left-hand drive and right-hand drive. So just like that situation we were talking about earlier, you can go from like right-hand drive to left-hand drive. You can buy these cranks, upgrade the cranks, run right-hand drive until you have the money to switch over to left-hand drive. And that's a pretty cool thing. Some of the cons include they're very not ankle friendly. Again, that's a big thing for me. These are very heavy cranks, and that 19mm spindle runs as a con just as much as it runs as a pro. They are phasing out 19mm spindles. You're going to get heavier spindles with 19mm because the 22 and the 24 are more hollow. So anyway, 19mm spindle is kind of a way of the past, and everyone's switching to 22 or 24 anyway. These cranks are going to score a 6.4. I think they're quite a bit better than the stolen talon cranks that we talked about, but they're nowhere near like the Demolition or the Primo or the Kink. They're just good 48 spline upgrades for somebody who needs to upgrade their cranks. Next on the list, these are ones that I'm really, really excited about. Really excited. These might be the strongest cranks out there. The Eclat Onyx cranks. Eclat says that they're the finest and most innovative cranks to date. They use an oversized 24mm super hollow spindle with a dependable design and strong invest cast pedal and spindle boss. I'll explain what that is in a minute, but that's the game changer right there. They're $200 cranks. They're available in 160, 165, and 175mm crank arm lengths. They weigh 29.4 ounces, so they're fairly light. They're under that 2-pound mark, and they've got a 24mm spindle. Some of the pros include that invest cast, pedal, and spindle boss. So what that is We the People does this a lot with their frames, like invest cast dropouts, or in their forks, or wishbone. They use an invest cast wishbone. It's a solid piece of casted metal. So it's built as like a mold. It's casted just like that. And then it lines up for the weld. So if you look at this pedal boss right here, the pedal boss is going to look something like this. And then it has a piece that protrudes out like that right there. And it's all casted as one. It's not like it's just the pedal boss just slapped onto the crank and welded. It's casted together and then welded in a way that's going to last. It's a lot stronger this way. Same thing here. And typically doing invest cast adds a lot of weight, but it looks like they were able to avoid that and keep this pretty light. So I'd say these are probably the strongest cranks because of that, but we'd have to test them out for sure. They're under 30 ounces. Like I said, they're really light. They're chromoly crank arms and spindle, super strong, and they're very ankle and street friendly. Again, I like that one-piece design, just like the Fit blunt cranks. I think that looks good. I think it's very solid. And you look at it here, man, that flushness, that clean look. These are such beautiful looking cranks. I can't get over it. Some of the problems, though, is that they're very expensive. You can only run 24mm sprockets on them. Now, these score a 9.4. I think the Onyx cranks are incredibly high quality cranks that, man, they're expensive, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get these instead of the those colony cranks that I was talking about. I think that this might be a better option. They're strong. That invest cast really interests me, but they'd be 4 ounces more than the colony cranks. So